Okay, welcome back to my Star Wars reviews. Of course, I reviewed A New Hope, and then I talked about the Droids animated series. So now we are going to talk about Empire Strikes Back. And if you're new to this series, just understand that I'm going through the Star Wars movies in order of release. So with a couple deviations, like when I talk about the Ewok movies, after I'm done talking about the Ewok movies, I'm going to talk about the Ewok series, but everything else is just going to be like in order of the original Star Wars movies. I'm not re-reviewing all the TV shows except for Mandalorian because I will talk about those. But yeah, just want to mention that. So, Empire Strikes Back is the best of the Star Wars movies. Keep in mind, I don't say my favorite because my favorite is still one we'll get to in the series. I'll leave that. I'll leave that spot open so you can wait to find out what that is. But I think this is just the best Star Wars movie ever. And what's strange about this movie is George Lucas is really given credit for all the original trilogy. But people forget that the one that most people hail as the best, that people love the most, which is Empire, is the one George Lucas did not direct, which is Empire. He did A New Hope, which is a really good movie. No discredit to that. But Return of the Jedi is the one he did after this, and we'll talk about that movie, but it's deemed as the worst of the trilogy. So, kind of felt like everything Star Wars after Empire started going downhill. And that doesn't mean there wasn't anything good out of it, but I'm just saying. Um, Also, one thing to remember about this movie is, of course, the special editions. But when you watch the special editions, Empire's the one that's the least changed. Doesn't that show you that even George Lucas, kind of in his mind, acknowledges that this is the best Star Wars movie? I think it really does, because it's true. This is the best Star Wars movie ever made. And John Williams' score is the best out of the original trilogy. I mean, this one gave us Yoda's theme, the Imperial March. I mean, I could go on with all those. Leia's theme in this as well. When Hera and Han, I love you. I know. That stuff. It's just fantastic. Everything about this movie is perfect. Also, this is one of the first major movies that took the kind of risk this movie did. See, all of us who complained at the end of Infinity War that we had to wait a whole year for Endgame, just imagine being in the 70s. Or no, not the 70s, the 80s. What year did this movie come out? I'm forgetting the year. But anyways, it was early 80s. And we didn't know when the next movie was coming out. We live in the age of the internet. Okay, everybody knew Endgame's coming out next year. We were pissed off at just being nerds having to wait for something. Also, we're just impatient. We want things now. But at the end of the day, we knew the next movie was coming. There were a lot of people who probably didn't know we were getting another Star Wars movie. In fact, this was a movie that people saw in the theater and fucking hated because they didn't understand that whole, oh, it ended on a bad note. It was pretty ballsy of George Lucas and his team to let Luke get his hand cut off, have that reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's father, and all these things that he did in the story. Yoda is amazing in this movie. Frank Oz is incredible. The puppeteer work is just great. And is just, I mean, there's so much to gush over. I mean, the whole movie is very tension filled because nobody succeeds in this movie. Nobody comes out on top except for the bad guys, which is kind of a crazy reality to watch. And it's really the first of its kind to make that happen. I don't think there really was a movie like this, unless it's like you're talking about like a crime or a gangster movie that maybe had a sad ending, like a Scorsese type movie, has that kind of stuff. But in terms of like a big summer blockbuster, I mean, Star Wars was one of the first of its kind. So to take this kind of risk and do that is a whole unique, crazy thing that I just think is insane. So just an amazing, amazing movie. If you've never, this is just a movie that is just like, it's hard to describe what makes it so special because it's just everything. Everything about this movie is perfect. I mean, I can't really watch this movie and think of a single fucking flaw. I can nitpick some of the dialogue, I guess, but at this point, it's just part of the charm. And some of the dialogue here is some of the most memorable parts. You're a scruffy looking nerf herder. Who's scruffy? You know, some of those lines. But it's like, again, those are iconic lines. They're great. So it's just a great movie. And I love rewatching this one constantly. This is the one I tend to rewatch the most. Or A New Hope. Don't really go back to Return of the Jedi that much, but we'll talk about some of that in a minute when we get into that video, which will be out in a couple weeks.